So, hello and welcome to another straight out of the box review with myself, Marcus Katz. I'm the author of Tarosophy and with co-author Tilde Goodwin, Around the Tarot in 78 Days, Tarot Face to Face and Learning Lenormand. Now today I have at last the Tyldwick Tarot by Lovell. Now I've waited for this deck since 1961. Well, actually that's not true. What has happened is in 1961 a film was released, a black and white film called Last Year in Marienbad. And Last Year in Marienbad, this is a book on it by Jean-Louis Letreau, is a very strange film indeed. It's a black and white, rather surreal film about a place, and this house is a house that has a play going on inside it, and the play seems to reflect the characters that are actually existing within the house itself. The characters often refer to things that have happened last year in Marienbad, in the place itself. However, sometimes pictures of what is happening suddenly appear in the background as paintings on the wall as other characters are engaging in narration. And sometimes everyone is sort of static or still or quiet, and what happens as the film evolves is you have no idea what is happening, what it is meant to be about. And yet it leaves you with a nostalgia, a sense of time, a sense of place, a sense of the tragic loss of memory, and all sorts of other things. It's an incredible film, not to everyone's taste, it has to be said, but nonetheless it's worth watching. The Last Year in Marienbad. Now that was produced in 1961. I was born in 1965, and yesterday the Tyldwick Tarot arrived. And the reason I've been so excited since I saw this online about 2, 3, 4 years ago was because the concept by Neil of having the tarot cards as representing a place with as few people as possible within it. There's a very good description and interview he's done on his website, which we'll link down below in a moment. The whole concept of tarot as being a place, as being a landscape, is something that certainly Tilde and I write about a lot, and it's something that people really respond to. Excuse me. So to have a deck that is based on a sort of deserted house, a timeless house with mirrors and reflections, is a dream come true for me. So I'm delighted to be reviewing it, and I resisted getting it out of the box, although we've used a lot of the images on our Tarot Life series. The whole of our Kindle Tarot Life series, Neil kindly and very graciously allowed us to use some of the images on the covers of each of the Tarot Life series, of which there are 12 books. And if you put them all together, they make a carousel of images into a place, that place being your own life, which the tarot is a superb map of. So I'm going to open this box and record my first feelings for posterity, for whatever that's worth. Here we go. Now the first thing we see is lots of gold. These have got gilt edges, so that is very nice. And I saw that Neil had put some initial comments up on his Facebook page, link below, and somebody said that the gilt was really superb on it. And I know that Neil had a trip to the printers, I think out in Europe, out in Belgium somewhere, in order to test them. Now let's see if I can actually get into the wrapping here. I'm very excited. It's like Christmas. Sorry to mention Christmas as this is a live summer recording, But some people may be watching this on YouTube and it might almost be Christmas, in which case this is the ideal deck for you. Wow. The back is stunning. It gives a sort of almost serpentine feel to it. And as it fans out, you can see a sort of sinuous, that will work brilliantly as a layout, as you fan them across the table. So that's first impressions. The actual cards, they're quite thin, but very adequate card stock, so that's some people really get uptight about that. The gilt is a little bit sticky because it's just come straight out of the box, but we'll soon wear that out of it. And the cards are gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. The reason I just muttered to myself is notice how immediately, even though the colours are quite muted, you can soon see cards sticking out. The red of the Hermit, yes, it's the Hermit, we used it on one of the Tarot Life books. So the red there really sticks out, makes that very noticeable, and the lamp also. So the colours are muted. Oh, now, guess which card this dark one might be here in the middle. You can immediately see, if I can get the lighting almost right there, the Devil card, this black mirror sticking out here. So these cards are speaking in a language that is design and texture. Excuse me. Okay, so I've taken out the majors and I'll just quickly run through a couple. I've always liked the Magician card here because it has a stage on it, so that the Magician's table becomes a sort of living room table or dressing table, and then the elements are represented upon the table, and there's also a stage there. So that idea of the magician as being a bit of a trickster, performing, sort of distracting people by sleight of hand and so on, it's all encapsulated within the image itself. Excuse me. And then it's nice because the High Priestess matches the design. So again, another dressing room table. So you can see the High Priestess and the Magician make a perfect match there. But the High Priestess is actually overtly upon the table, whereas the Magician is almost hiding behind the play that's on the table there. So quite an interesting concept. So when we come to the Emperor, we have again, you'd imagine that it would be hard to create a deck without people in it, but Neil has got round this in beautiful and very, very clever ways. So here we have the Emperor, and there is a bust, I don't know if it's Claudius or some other emperor, on the table, and behind him are all of the symbols of power as knowledge in this case. Power as knowledge. So I quite like that, and you'll notice right behind me, it's almost as if it's a painted version of the library here, so kudos for Neil on that. The Hierophant is actually the Pope, so we've gone back to the idea of the Hierophant as Pope. And is the Empress the Papess, or is it the Empress? Let's have a look. Just I went by that card. The Empress is Diana of Ephesus as a statuette on the Empress herself. But you just want to explore this place already. You want to know where it is and why there are no people there, and you know, why has the character of Justice left the flowers on the table. This is a beautiful, beautiful deck, and the best thing about this is, one of the best things about this, ideal for path working, ideal for visualization. With the inner guide meditation and various other methods that we teach, the idea of path working into these cards, there's enough on the card image to actually give you an anchor into the nature of the card, and because there are no people there, you can go inside it and explore your own archetypes, your own relationship to the archetype, and also populate it with your own inner dialogue. And I would imagine this is how it's going to work with the actual readings themselves. I like the idea here of death. This is a card that people often want to see, to know if it's a child-friendly deck or people who are spooked easily friendly deck. And here we have a sort of skeletal figure in the mirror, and then the idea of time passing up at the top there, and the organ, which may be a visual pun, as in the organ. That's interesting, and it's almost like the march of time or the music of time passing. And again, the devil, there's the horned figure right at the top of the mirror there, and one can almost imagine that you can see something within the mirror, but perhaps not. And so the idea of the devil as being the shadow, the thing that we don't face, and so forth, there it is in the mirror, ready for us to face it. So there we have some of the majors, and I like also the rather geometrical nature of the world with the sort of platonic solids down at the bottom there. Again, this is a designer's deck, but also a reader's deck as well. So those are all beautiful, and I love the colours. They're muted, they're subtle, but they are perfect, absolutely perfect. So now here's something that we can see again. This has been created by a designer. When you look at the cards, if I fan out the minor cards and the court cards, you can see already the differences between the suits. How wonderful is that? Even just fanning them out like that, you can immediately get a visual clue as to the suits, because of the borders are sequenced with each suit. So the wands for fire, we have a bright orange border, which of course works perfectly with all of the colourings within the cards. This is a master deck already, I can tell. So there's the Ace of Wands. The Pentacles, or the Cups, the Cups next. Oh, they are just gorgeous. This one, I don't know why, that is just so beautiful. Look at the colouring on that, and the idea of the watering can. I don't know if you can see it. Let's just get a little watering can, and the Six of Cups there. Is the I don't know if you can quite see the watering can, the red watering can there, and the Six of Cups, and all of the space that's in that card. The idea that you're looking over a balcony. I just want to visit this place already. It is just like the house in Last Year in Marienbad, I swear. It's even down to the garden shed with the Eight of Cups. There's a sort of garden shed. We can see that. So every little bit of detail is within the cards themselves. Now the minors themselves have places, so how has Neil actually managed to go about doing the court cards? Let's take a look at the swords cards. Again, the cups are all very green. The swords are nice and sort of browny yellow, and there's probably a proper name for that colour, but I'm not the best person for colours. There's the cover that we used for Tarot Inspire, actually, the Two of Swords, with the bird escaping the cage. Or perhaps it's still trapped within the room itself, hence the dichotomy of the Two of Swords. And when you think that you might not immediately know from that design of a bird in a cage why it's the Two of Swords, not only is it titled very clearly at the top there, but also you can see, if I grab a pen here, I've been taught to do this properly, never use the pen end. Just here we have the two swords in a Marseille type design actually worked into the graphic itself. And that's the same on all of the other cards, I would guess. Yes, here we have the Three of Swords in the middle of the window. You can see the Three of Swords just here. And as well as the clear title. So even though it might not immediately jump out at you in the same way that it might do for those using the Waite Smith type designs, then this is clear enough what you're looking at. The Five of Swords, already there's this idea of ruin and desolation going on here in the Five of Swords. And the Five of Swords design as well is actually worked into the an etching on the wall itself there. So, court cards. Just working through to the court cards. So what Neil's done is actually embedded the court card portraits within the cards themselves without them being actual people. So here we can see for the Page of Swords, just make sure I get it right, the actual Page of Swords face is actually within the design itself. And similarly, if we take a look at the Knight of Swords, similar concept, the knight is actually shown here. Now, is there a difference between them? I guess so. The the page and the queen are actually both outdoor sort of garden fresco type cards, and the knight and king, the knight is an indoors fireplace, and the king is sort of like in a conservatory type room. So there are subtle differences, but I think it will take me a little time to get to recognise the exact differences between each of these court cards. But that's the sort of exciting thing, that a bit like when you first get a brand new deck of any description, it's actually starting to recognise the cards and get to know them in some way or another. At some point, people, every reader using even the Waite Smith deck would, struggle to remember exactly what the Four of Swords was and what the Five of Swords was. I used to go through them in my head every single night and see if I could go through the ace to the 10 of each suit in my head one at a time, and remember what cards they were and almost step through them, and then build up until I could do all 78 cards. This is when I was sort of 14 or 15, to try and actually work through the entire deck, so I knew that I had it in my mind. And I may actually try and use that method once again for this. So the Two of Coins, so the coins are very rustic, very brown, stone, wood, architectural, and very rustic. So the Two of Coins, Two of Pentacles, is this balance of the bucket with something growing out of it. So finding that perfect balance in order to promote growth, which is a decent enough representation of one of the meanings of the Two of Pentacles itself. So this is a gorgeous deck. It's a beautiful design. It works really, really superbly. The cards are gorgeous. Using them in a reading will be very interesting, because I suspect that the main difficulty may be not getting drawn into the depths and wanting to explore the images. Here are the Nine of Coins with various treasure troves and treasure chests and boxes and locks, all sort of holding what is not yet opened, what is not yet available. Whereas the 10, it's all absolutely, we've got these buckets, a very bacchanalian centerpiece, and everything is all available and revealed. A nice mix between the usual sort of kept woman type image of the Nine of Pentacles. Here we have all of the treasures actually held in a locked room, although perhaps the lock is on the inside, or perhaps these are on the outside. It's already prompting questions with the design itself, and the questions are the things that make divination possible. The questions, as we engage with the images and try and combine them, from that arises the oracular moment. So with that in mind, and thinking about last year in Marienbad, one of the things that comes to mind with this, because I always try and provide a unique way of reading a particular deck straight out of the box, if that's at all possible. Now with this deck, I've already started to think about ways of using houses, either zodiacal houses or sort of a Lenormand style method of houses. Because this is actually a house, and because the house is the soul and a symbol of the whole psyche, we know that things like in Jungian dream interpretation, and a good book on that is James Hall's book called Jungian Dream Interpretation, that if the house represents the whole psyche, then the attic space, for example, represents our higher nature, the roof, our transcendence, the basement, obviously all of the dark and deep things that are sat in our unconscious, and so on and so on. The living room is our social space, and it's our, if people are arguing inside the living room in your dream, then in a Jungian sense, I guess that means that if they're people they're parts of yourself that you recognise are in conflict with regard to the way that you're dealing with people outside you. So I'm just wondering if we can use something like that to do a reading with these cards straight out of the box. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just do a quick 2-card reading method with the Tyldwick Tarot, and we're going to call it the Tyldwick House Method. The Tyldwick House Method. You heard it here first. The first card will actually denote the place of the soul in which the question is being asked. And it's going to be a 3-card reading, I've just decided. So the first card is the place in which the soul is being asked. And for this we have the Two of Cups. How beautiful is this image? The Two of Cups, which is the garden. It's a very formal garden, and without wishing to bring Lenormand back into tarot, heaven forbid, then here, so here we have the garden. It's a very formal garden. Now the garden is the place of creativity, however a formal garden shows the relationship. It's a bit like a swimming pool where you are containing water. Often in Jungian dreams, a swimming pool can be trying to contain an unconscious impulse. I remember having a whole series of such dreams myself when I was younger, and my esoteric teacher, patiently nodding his head whilst I was recounting these dreams, and I kept saying, well, but it's weird because then I go into, come out of the swimming pool and into the changing room and start to put on clothes and so forth, and then I wake up. And I keep going into the changing room and waking up. And it's really, I don't know what the dream means. I'm going into this changing room and then waking up. Changing room. Is there something about changing rooms that I'm missing? And he would laugh and laugh and laugh and, wait until I actually listened to myself speaking. And it was that obvious. You need to go into a change in order to wake up. So the garden is our place of presenting ourselves, promenading to other people, having time to ourselves in some of the original Lenormand couplets and fortune-telling verses. It was being by yourself, having time to yourself, rewarding yourself. So I'm going to say that the question is about how do I reward myself? How do I take time to myself? Which, of course, is in the way that any divination is. You can't make these things up. A very valid question for me at the moment. And so I'm now going to take another card to answer, to ask the question actually of what do I need to know in my space of the garden, of the formal garden, of how I reward myself, how I recognise myself. Sorry, this is now a very personal reading, so if you don't want to hear the method, then just I hope you've enjoyed the review of the cards. So let's see what happens. Whoops, cards are dancing about. So, the 10 of staves, the 10 of wands, is the question. And you can see the 10 of staves here has a hatchet buried into a block of wood. Burying the hatchet, burying the hatchet. That might be symbolic in some way, I don't know. So again, the question is, where does one bury the hatchet? How does one bury the hatchet in order to recognise what one has achieved? I might actually edit this out because it's a little bit too relevant and spot on for the cards, but it shows the power of these cards already in doing a reading. Because those watching this as a live or close to the live recording will know that this is actually a very valid question for some of the stuff that I've been asking publicly on Facebook more recently. So here's the answer to the question. In the space of the garden, in the space of my recognition of myself, where do I need to bury the hatchet? And the answer is the 6 of coins. The 6 of coins. Now look at that gold gilt gateway. It's perfectly designed. It is beautiful. But I noticed that there's a chain up at the top. Can you see the chain there? So it's a very inviting gate, but there is a chain up at the top. It immediately answers my question because it's about boundaries. It's about who you let in, how you guard the entrance, and how you invite people in, and how one might put things that one has earned out into the world. You know, this is almost like saying, look what I've achieved because I've got this wonderful gate. But that gate can actually stop people coming into the garden. So what I'm going to do is do a little bit of path working this evening within a sort of dream method, one of the ones that we teach, and go and explore and see if I can find this hatchet and actually do some creative visualization work with it, perhaps even using the inner guide meditation. So I'd like to end this straight out of the box review by just showing you those three wonderful cards there and showing how they might be able to really open up the architecture of the soul. I think these cards will stand a great deal of work with self-development work for yourself and with clients. I think they will be very good for straightforward readings as well, but I suspect that they have a higher design purpose, that one can elevate them into realms of self-discovery, because the house is the soul and the cards here are a map of a house that only exists inside ourselves. So I look forward to your discoveries of the Tyldwick Tarot. I hope you'll share those with us on our Facebook group and also on Neil's as well. So thank you, Neil, for presenting these cards to us. It has been well worth the wait, and I'm so excited to continue to explore the space that you have brought into the cards themselves. Thank you very much.